Hey guys, today I am going to be teaching you how to play chess for the first video in my How to Play Games series. There is going to be a total of 5 videos, but this is the first one that I have done. I would suggest pause the video right now so you can get your chess game and so you can be ready to learn how to play and set up and everything you'll need to know about chess. So pause right now. Okay, now you should have your chess game, and just like you can lay it out in front of you, and if it's folded like this, you can open it like there, and I think it has little things over at the back of it that you can lift. There's little nails that sticks in it. There can be many ways to open a chess board because this is an old game. So there's a lot of different versions. So that's just how mine goes. So what I can do is I'll just pull out the pieces. If you have pieces like this, I just warn you, be very careful with the pieces because they are very pointy. I've stabbed myself on one of the pieces before. So, and then I will stop the recording and set up, and then I will resume and tell you where each piece goes so you can get your chess game all set up. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I am now back with my game all set up, and I will show you where each piece goes. And just one tip about my chess game, I don't know why. There are two sides, white and black. As you can see, my white pieces are more black, but they're white because of the bottom is white. And then my black pieces are more white, but they are black because the bottom is black. So, just so you don't get confused, I'm just wanting to shout that out to you. So, it doesn't matter how the game is set up with each side, but they just have to be like the first 2 rows in whatever direction. Like, the white could be on this side and the black could be on this side, or it could be here and here. But it doesn't really matter. So, each side has to be completely identical to the other side. So, even the king has to be facing each other. The kings and the queens have to be facing each other in the same order. So, there's king, queen, and king, queen. That is a rule that has to happen. Because a lot of games, it's the exact opposite. Like, they would have to be like this. But in this game, that's not the case. So, the first thing you can do is you can put all of your small pieces, which are pawns, and you can lay them all out on the second row to the bottom. And then you'll have they can be called castles, but they're actually supposed to be called rooks, and they go on the back corners in the bottom row, so right here. And then you have your knights, which are like, they can also be called horses, and they go next to the rooks. And then there's bishops. They don't really have any special name or common name. They're just called bishops, and then they go next to the knights. And then the king and queen go into the middle. It doesn't really matter if your king and queen is like this, or your king and queen is like this. Just whatever order you have it in, it has to be the same in the other side. As you can see, both sides are set up the same way, like pawns in front. There's rooks, knights, and bishops. And then the king is facing king, and the queen is facing queen. And that's how you set up the game. Set your game up that way, and pause the video in 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, now that you've had your game all set up, now we can start with the basic rules in playing chess. So one thing about the pawns is that they can only go forward. They can't go like diagonally, and they can't go like this. They can only go forward. There is one way to make them go diagonally, but I will explain that later. You cannot jump over pieces unless you are using the knight. The knight is the only piece that can jump over other pieces. Because of the shape it goes into, it goes in an L. So if you didn't want to move a pawn for your first turn, you can use a knight and jump over your pawns and then go either here or here. It has to always go in an L, and the L has to be 4 squares. The square that is on is counting as one of the squares. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be its move. Even if it started right here, it can't go here, it would have to go here. But it can also go in other directions, so it could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all 4 square L's, and any of those moves are possible. You can also move your pawns if you are wanting to get other pieces out, like your bishop or your rook. But pawns are normally only able to be moving 1 space each turn. But you can, if it's the first time it's ever been moved, you can move it 2 spaces up. And that can free out some important pieces in some ways. Though you do have to move pawns up a lot to be able to free out some other pieces. Then for the rest of the pieces, if there's nothing blocking it, they can be moved. So, for example, like the bishop is not blocked by anything, so it can go out. And one thing about the bishop, it can only go diagonally, like this. It can only go diagonally. And each character or piece can only move in one direction each turn, except for the bishop. I mean, not the bishop, the rook. The knight. Except for the knight. That's the only piece that can move in one or more than one direction. But all the other ones have to go in one direction. So for example, I cannot do this. That you can't, if you do that, then that would be like cheating. But you can do this, wait for your next turn, and then do that. One other thing is that if like you guys were having like an intense chess game, there are pieces everywhere, your goal is to get the king, this piece right here, captured. And if you can manage to get it captured, you win. But the problem is you have to get other pieces captured to be able to do that. So for example, you can move a piece, and if it like runs into a piece on the other player's team, then you can put it to the side because that would be considered captured. But once if you capture a piece, your character or piece has to stop moving wherever it is. Even if it can keep moving, it has to stop moving. And with the knight, if it's like right here and it jumps over a piece, even if it's still capturing a piece that it lands on, it cannot capture a piece that it jumps over. So if it jumps over that piece, the piece stays there and it's completely fine. I'm going to explain the other movements of things now. So the rooks, or the castles, they can move any direction, however far they want, except diagonally. So they can move this way, this way, this way, or this way. So they just can't move diagonally. And it's good to keep your rooks because your rooks can be pretty powerful when trying to capture the king. So, and remember, you can only go one direction each turn. And it's the same as always. If your character or piece runs into another piece, it has to stop even if it can go farther. And also, you cannot capture your own pieces. So if you want to like move here, like if you want to move right where my bishop is, it would have to stop right before it because the bishop is in the way. So if you are wanting to move your piece in a certain place, you're going to have to move all of your pieces to get your piece to go where it wants in the fastest way. Next, we have the king. The king can move in any direction, but it can only move one square. So it can go like here, 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 or here. I know I'm pushing pieces aside, but I'm just trying to show an example. The king is what you need to keep the most, because if your king gets captured, that's the end of the game. The other team wins. Alright, I'm going to put the pieces back and then explain the queen, which is the most powerful piece in the game, and you will learn why once I put all these pieces back. So, the queen, if you have it like in the right spot, you can move it in any direction you want. Diagonally, left, right, up, and down. And like always, if it runs into a piece that it can capture, you have to stop it. And if it runs into the edge, you have to stop. And also, it can only move one direction each turn. So you need to keep the queen to help protect the king for most things. And if you also don't want your queen to get captured, because your queen is a very powerful piece. Then next I will explain capturing the king. So the king gets captured with any piece at once, but a pawn, since it can only move one space, it is not likely that a pawn would capture the king. But if your king is if it's possible that your king can be captured, the other team has to say check, and then you have to either capture the piece that is making you be in check, or you have to move away from the pieces that are making you be in check. If it's too far away, like if the piece is right here, you can always just like capture it right there. But if it's like more than one space away, then you cannot capture it. If your king doesn't have any place to go, for example, if it was like this, if pieces were arranged like this, then your king has no choice but to be captured. So the other team would say checkmate, and then you lift up the king and lay it down, and that's how the game ends. I don't know why you lay down the king, but oh well. Alright, those are the basic rules with chess. Master the rules, and then I would suggest come back to the video, because there are a couple more rules that you can do that can help, but it's best to master those rules first, because those are kind of complicated. So come back later and resume the video to learn the new rules. And I'm going to suggest you should pause it now so you can master the rules. So pause it in 3, 2, 1, pause. So it may have taken you a couple of days or maybe a week to master the rules, but if you've been able to master the rules, then good job. And these next rules will help with a lot of things. So if you have a lot of important pieces out, like your queen or a rook or something like that, then if you can manage to get your pawn all the way to the other side, to the team's side of the other team's end of the board, then you can like switch out the pawn to any piece that has been captured except for a pawn. And if you don't have that piece captured, you can actually just have it in place as an extra piece. So like you could have two queens if you even wanted to. Though you cannot go for another king, and you can go for another pawn, but that would be completely pointless, because there is no point to do a pawn because you would just be stuck there. So that's one of the special rules. And then if you remember earlier how I was explaining, you can move 2 spaces ahead on your first turn. If the other team has a pawn right here, you can go 1, 2. Also, I did say to pause the video for a few days to master the rules, you might have been playing this way. I just remembered, I should have said pawns can only capture diagonally. Like if this is here, they're stuck. But if this is here, you can only go diagonally. And also, if you did the thing I just suggested, and the pawn is right here, and you can go 1, 2, you can only do that if a pawn is there. If another piece like a bishop or a rook or a queen is there, you can't do that. So, you better be careful when you're moving so you can capture the pieces at the right time. I think that's basically it. Let me think real quick. Oh yeah, there's also things called castling. Most people know that about castling for the king, which is when, if you haven't moved your rook or your king, so like if these two pieces haven't been moved, but the pieces in the middle of it have been like gone somewhere else and there's no spaces in the middle, then you can do something called castling, which is where you switch around the pieces, except you don't go all the way to the end, you just go right here. And not very many people know this, but you can actually do the same thing with the queen. So you can castle with the queen and then you have a castle party. So it's basically, because these are basically serving for like a castle, and as you see now the king and the queen are outside of the castle. I think, and I'm pretty sure that's why it's called castling. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be prepared for the next video to come on YouTube pretty soon. And I hope this video was an enjoyment to you, so be prepared for my next How to Play video. Bye!